Welcome back. So far in our series, you've learned how to begin your personal Bible study with worship and prayer, and you've learned how to take a passage and then focus it down to a verse or maybe two as you listen to the Holy Spirit's leading. And now you need to discern what the Holy Spirit is trying to teach you from that verse. I think that the best method of doing that, of discerning, is asking questions. In other words, taking that verse and asking specific questions about it. So in this segment, we're going to discuss 6 questions that you can ask and then give you examples from each of them from the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. So the first question you might ask of that verse that's your focus is there a command to obey? For example, if you were reading Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, he says, "But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." And the statement here is in the imperative form, which means it's a command. It's not an option. It's not conditional on who the person is or what they've done. It's a very blanket statement. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So Jesus is giving you a command specifically that you need to use in your life. The second question that you can ask of the verse that's become your focus is there a principle or truth that I need to apply to my life? Jesus instructs us in Matthew 5:37 to let our yeses be yes and our no's be no. And Jesus is teaching us to keep our speech truthful and straightforward. We don't need to swear or to take oaths. And so you may need to take this principle and apply it to your conversations and make your conversations more straightforward and simple. A third question that you can ask of the text is there an action to take? In Matthew chapter 6, verse 7, Jesus is giving us counsel about our prayers, and he tells us not to use meaningless repetition. So you may need to examine your prayers and make changes where it's appropriate. Your prayers shouldn't contain empty phrases that you just use multiple times, like commas or pauses. And you shouldn't use words that you don't really mean or that you may not even know the meaning of. You just heard them used in prayers. So he's telling us to evaluate. He's telling you to evaluate your prayer life. The fourth question to ask of that verse that you're focusing on is there a promise to claim? Jesus says in Matthew 6:33 that if we seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, all these things will be added unto you. And in context, all these things means our daily needs, such as food and of clothing. God is promising to meet your needs. And so you need to claim the promise that God is going to supply your needs, as Paul tells us in other verses, according to his riches and glory. And so you need to claim that promise in your life. The fifth question that you can ask is there a sin to confess? Has God revealed something to me that is wrong in my life and I need to turn away from it? In Matthew chapter 7, it begins with the words, "Do not judge, so that you will not be judged." And in the context, a better translation might be, "Do not condemn, so that you will not be condemned." So you need to examine your life and ask, am I guilty of condemning people rather than offering mercy and grace? And if so, that's a sin that I need to confess. And then the sixth and final question we can ask as we're looking at that key verse is there an area of my life I need to surrender? Matthew 6:24 tells us that we cannot serve two gods. So we have to look and see if we've allowed things into our lives that push God out of first place. And if there are, then you need to deal with them. So we go through our verse, our focus verse, and we're asking these 6 questions, and we're recording whatever it is that God is saying to us in that particular verse. And having done that, then we're ready for the next and the final step in our series.